Yo. Got some things to mention, but first we'll try doing a little bit of this. But Joshua fifth the battle of Joshua fifth the battle of Jericho. Joshua fit the battle of Jericho, and the walls came tumbling, and the walls came tumbling down, up to the walls of Gideon. He emerged with the spear in his hands. He told the children to blow their horns, 'cause the battle is in my hands. Hallelujah, child. Joshua fit the battle of Jericho. Jericho. Joshua fit the battle of Jericho, and the walls came tumbling down. Brave and bold he stood, with a double-edged sword on his arm. Blare those trumpets, Joshua cried, 'cause the devil can't do you no harm. And the trumpets began to blow, and the horns began to sound. Joshua told the children to jump and shout, and the walls came tumbling down. But I heard about the man of Gideon, but I heard about the man of Saul. But there ain't but that one good Joshua at the battle of Jericho. Hallelujah, Joshua fought the battle of Jericho. Joshua fought the battle of Jericho, and the walls came tumbling down. I'm just gonna get a cup of water and then we'll mention a couple of things. Hope all is well. Things are pretty good, I suppose. But so there are two topics. Maybe others may view this later on and it can be of some use to other people also. But there's a certain, so the first topic is talking about like vocals and singing, and then the second topic is about getting through the chord progression of Hey Joe, and some realizations after reading a certain book, the Max Reger modulation book. And in the initial pages, it seems like there is a practical way to kind of get through that chord progression, that Heijo chord progression, which is kind of unusual in that it's ascending fifths, which is not so usual. But with the first topic, in some of those in some of like the singing styles, at least of the blues singers, certain singers in mind would be like Robert Pete Williams. Some good examples like Blind Willie Johnson, King Solomon Hill, but really just about all of them, B.B. King, Sunhouse, is that those singers have this sort of way of kind of like hitting pitches harmonically at discrete sort of levels where the voice sort of naturally kind of flutters almost between these discrete pitches that are actually kind of harmonically, that are within the tonality, maybe. Like, for example, like this, like the classic one where there's this lick. These are discrete changes of the pitch. And then to actually sing that, sometimes there can be two ways of doing it, maybe like categorizing as two different ways. One is where the voice or the mind leans more heavily towards trying to control and constrain the vocal cords such that they kind of hit those pitches, and it's effortful, and that sort of effort can sort of manifest as actually like constricting and restricting the vocal cords so that they only really have those options. And then it can be maybe posed that a second way of doing it is by allowing the vocal cords to like naturally just find their own sort of like setting where it sort of like naturally just hits those pitches. And in doing a little bit of like digging, it sounds like these sorts of like singing styles, like microtonal singing, which could be like Joshua, Joshua, fifth, the battle of Jericho, Jericho, Jericho. But maybe it's psychological and biological. I think it may be a bit of both, like, because here's where this first topic, the crux of, so that was kind of the context leading up to the first topic. So it was kind of, so now we'll kind of mention why it came into mind and then talk about like what seems to be maybe a solution to kind of find and sink into that sort of mode where the voice kind of like falls into that sort of mode where just by putting air through, it starts to kind of hit notes that are like harmonically relevant. And the reason why it came about, just as context, was a couple days ago, like a few days ago, was just playing the guitar and then was just sort of singing. And then suddenly everything sort of like clicked into place. And actually from that sort of recorded a version of St. Louis Blues just to kind of like bookmark that, where it was really easy to like hit like really kind of like strange though like certain notes within the harmony, but then wasn't really sure how that happened, and then went to sleep and then woke up and then sort of seemed to lose it. But I remember being in that same sort of scenario like last year during one particular actually a live stream where that happened. Same thing kind of happened. So then it was like, how did that actually happen? Because there seemed to be like this discrete change. And then it was sort of like over the over the ensuing days, like was just trying to at least like write down like what it seemed to feel like. And it sort of felt like hitting, like rather than like trying to hit these notes, but then going from high to low, and then the voice just like feeling too loose and just like free falling, it would like hit all these like notches along the way within the harmony, kind of, maybe. And then started thinking, oh, maybe it's to do with like where the air is, like, and muscles are being used. Maybe it's if it's down here or if it's up here. And then was trying to do it all over. That didn't really go anywhere. But then actually, so that was kind of why it came to mind. Now the crux of the topic is that actually I think what was happening, based on some in the last maybe 24 or 36 hours, is that I was sort of like singing something without the guitar, and suddenly the note that I was trying to sing personally was like went way out of tune. And it was that sort of same mode where it's like, okay, trying to like constrain it so it's in tune and thinking and planning for each note. But then it went out of tune and it was like, oh, like getting the anxiety and like trying to like, no, do it, go down to this pitch, but trying to do it fast enough to almost like hide that kind of thing. But then I thought, oh, it seems like the vocal cords just want to go there. So then tried treating that way out of tune note as the new root. And all of a sudden, it sort of started to like happen again. So now I kind of wonder if that could maybe be of some practical use to anybody, where when you're singing and you're kind of like trying to hit certain pitches, but then your voice goes way out of tune, you use that note. Maybe it's not necessarily the root, but maybe like the dominant note, like the fifth, or the something in relation to it. Because clearly biologically or physiologically, kind of returning to that, what was written there, physiological versus psychological, it seems like the acoustics of it, of the vocal cords, maybe that actually naturally wants to go there. So it's almost like calibration. And while kind of like trying to like recreate it in that sense, it doesn't really feel as like locked in as it did like several days ago, but certainly it feels more so. Like it feels, actually maybe it is the same. It kind of does almost feel the same, but So anyways, there's that. Need the right amount of sore throat. And actually, sometimes I think having a sore throat can actually kind of help because I don't know, maybe it does something, or like that inflamed throat almost is a bit more to work with or something. And I think in that mode, which maybe can be called like the notchy or notched mode, there's still some like conscious effort. It's not that it's totally, I can't see how it would be totally automatic, though it seems to be like more spontaneous, or more a mode where there's at least there's a greater amount of like opportunity surface area for something unexpected to happen, where it can sort of consciously sort of influence things, but it's a little bit more free. And then we'll get into the Hey Joe topic, but we'll try and use this for maybe like Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. Swing. So like. And sometimes it's off with the guitar because it could be like some sense lower, but maybe this is close enough. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming home for to hear me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming home to carry me home. Well, I looked over Jordan, and already this doesn't feel right, but well, I looked over. Well, I looked over Jordan, and what did I see? Coming forward to carry me home. Well, a band of angels coming to me, coming forward to carry me home. Well, I'm sometimes up and I'm sometimes down, coming forward to carry me home. Well, I'm sometimes almost level with the ground, coming hard to carry me home. Well, if you get there before I do, coming forward to carry me home. Well, tell my friends I'm coming there too, coming forward to carry me home. So it's almost like waiting for, or like actually looking forward to when things go out of tune, because it's like, oh, maybe that's actually where it should be. Well, maybe we might try it again. And merci. Swing low, swing low. Oh, this is where I was just trying to do it. Sweet chariot, coming forward to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, come forth to carry me home. Well, I'm sometimes up tonight, sometimes down. Come forth to carry me home. Well, I'm sometimes almost level with the ground. Coming forth to carry me home. Well, if you get there before I do, come forward to carry me home. Well, tell my friends I'm coming there too. Come forward to carry me home. Well, I looked over Jordan, and what did I see? Coming forward to carry me home. Well, a band of angels coming to me, coming forward to carry me home. And like that one feels less comfortable than the other one, but it's like it seems to make sense. Maybe as if we'll next move on to the Hey Joe topic, but it seems to kind of make sense that like the physical, anyone's physical vocal cords would have their own sort of like optimal kind of like resonant frequencies, and it would differ from person to person depending on like the size and things like that. And so, and then since like the key is very much, well, is related, is the frequency and the pitch, like, or is the frequency, getting to the right frequency or getting to the right pitch would, for different people, would then kind of like activate the instrument more or better maybe in certain cases than others. And then I think the hope would then be that it can then be developed for all keys. And maybe by actually doing that and kind of like doing that to the vocal cords, it could maybe even like be healthy, like open things up, and maybe doing it in the most optimal key at one time can open things up so that maybe another key can kind of get wedged in there and be pretty better too, and then that can develop, and then another thing. And then I think, or I was reading that it kind of makes sense. Like for example, there are these modern, well, maybe modern from the standpoint of the last like few hundred years of like well temperament or whatever the standardized pitches are. Though in coming back to like the microtonality, which is like things like these little bends. Like technically this is microtonal because it's not really this. And yet it's so like prevalent. And so those sorts of like things can be really useful, but they aren't necessarily accounted for by the kind of like modern notation. And so there could be a lot of things then, such as like the 440, where maybe that is missing out on a lot of things also, while nonetheless being useful in other ways. And then it kind of also then sort of seems nice because by then bringing up that sort of topic, it then sort of like connects a lot of like world music. Like even was watching this Werner Herzog Buddhism documentary where the people who do this pilgrimage to a certain like mountain that's important for Buddhism is like they do this singing holler type of thing that seems to have a lot of like microtonality and similarity in certain ways to like the African style microtonality or African, those sorts of like sounds that have sort of dispersed. Oh, actually, sort of personally, first didn't really know Werner Herzog until the Disney Plus Star Wars series. But now moving on to the next topic of Hey Joe, we'll just get this book here. So upon the recommendation of a certain subreddit where certain members support this book and other members don't support it. This Modulation by Max Rieger. And then it's got all these like examples. So for example, this first page, everything starts with C major. So it's like ideas for how to modulate, first page, from C major to G major, which seems more straightforward. C major to D major, still kind of straightforward. But then it gets to like modulating from C major, I don't know if this is reversed text, but C major to B major, which is like much less intuitive. And this is all mentioned as a precursor to the Hey Joe thing. And some of it seems kind of like overly pedantic, but I've kind of like seemed to boil things down to one thing that can relate to Hey Joe. So for example, we can use this example. How does he modulate from C major to B major? That's actually a little bit more bizarre because within the diatonic like C major scale, B would be half diminished. So for it to be major, to modulate to it as a major is kind of weird. But he kind of goes about it in this way. And he sort of mentions some other chords along the way. But so this is it. So this is an actual C due to the lower tuning of this guitar. But he goes, okay, C. So then he goes, still, this is still diatonic, then he goes to G. G is the fifth degree relative to C, which in this sort of classical terminology, rather than calling things by the 5 or the 4 or the 3 or the 2 or the root or the 1, the root/1, they've got different words that actually seem to be kind of useful to maybe incorporate or start incorporating. Like the 1 they call the tonic, the 2 is called the Dorian. This is based on how this book, Arnold Schoenberg, he calls out the degrees, not by the numbers, but by these terms. So the 1 is the tonic, the 2 is called the Dorian. And actually this book was published in the 1940s, and he talks about like Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, Locrian. But he calls the 2 the Dorian, although, so that's actually the only one where it goes by the actual mode name. He calls the 2 the Dorian, which is kind of like, it actually sounds kind of badass, I find. But I saw on Wikipedia, the 2 within this system is sometimes called the supertonic, because in sort of like strict sort of prefix terms, super just means higher, so higher than the tonic is the 2. So tonic, supertonic. Then the 3 is called the median, and the reason for it being called the median is it's between like something to do with the fact that it's between 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's like in the middle of that, between the halfway between so it's the median is the 3. So tonic, Dorian, median. The 4 is called and this will become important, but the 4 is called the subdominant. And the reason is because the 5 is called the dominant, which is more familiar, I think, because this is often called the 5th degree is often played as a sort of like dominant chord quality. So the 4 is lower than the dominant, just in terms of like the ascending. So it's subdominant. It's the subdominant. So tonic, Dorian, median, subdominant, dominant. Now the 6, which would sometimes be called the relative minor, is in this sort of system, is sort of like just terminology, is called the submediant. And that's something to do with the fact that from descending, it's something to do with the fact that it's looking at it in a descending direction. This is in the middle, so it's like mediant. It's like the submediant, but I guess in the below, so it's sub. So the 6 is called the submediant, and then the 7 is called the leading tone. It doesn't really have so much of a name. And then I forget, there's the name for the flat 7, I think called the subtonic. And then this is the leading tone, and then back to the tonic. Yeah, it's a lot of terminology, but then it sounds kind of cool. But then you can, maybe that, once you think it sounds cool, then you can confirm the snobbiness. So now here is, so now quickly we'll review again. Tonic, Dorian, median, wait, is that the median? Yeah, median, subdominant, the dominant, submedian, subtonic, leading tone, and the tonic. So then, now when he's going to B major, so it starts, so then now using this terminology, you can say it like this. Whereas before you might say, okay, it goes from the C to the G, to the E minor, to the B major. And I don't know if that's, like, I kind of don't like it because it doesn't really sound like my ear doesn't feel so drawn then to like B major, but it will soon connect to Hey Joe in a certain way. But first we'll kind of then mention, so now using the number system, rather than calling out the chords, which would change anytime you change keys, you could use that, which would be the first option, maybe option A. Option B would be to use the number system. So you'd say 1 major, 5 major, 3 minor, 7 major. But so that's option B, using the number system. Option A again would be using just the chords. Then option C would then be to use some of these terminologies. So then you'd say, you'd play the tonic as a major chord quality, then you'd go to the dominant as a major, then you'd play the mediant as a minor, and then you'd play the leading tone as a major. And so what's actually happening there is, in essence, I mean, to me, I think really what's happening is, if you can think of it as you're playing the tonic in major, and then you go to the I was about to say 3 minor, but we'll say mediant minor. This is the E minor, which has an arpeggio of the 3, 5, and major 7 within C. So that's why the 3 minor can often be substituted for the root, which is common, for example, in the 1-6-2-5. Rather than going back to here, you can use the 3 minor. Shares so many notes with the root. So now back to this sort of cadence, I'm gonna remove the G major just because it's kind of the same. It's so closely related to that. And then also this E minor, since it's the 3 minor, or the median minor, is so similar to the root. So these are all kind of like you're kind of almost playing the same chord. But then here's where the key modulation can happen. Is this from the 3 minor to the 7 major, or the median minor to the leading tone major. This is like the what can be sometimes called the plagal cadence, which is rather than 5-1, it's 4-1, 4 minor to 1, because the subdominant, because relative to the B major, is basically going from the subdominant of the from the perspective of the B major to the tonic, to the new tonic. So subdominant, which is the 4 minor, because the minor third here has a nice resolution to the 5 of the tonic, subdominant minor, and it's got that kind of resolution. So now then backing up to the C major, it's so closely related to the E minor, but then this can also be kind of almost like pivoted into being used in the plagal cadence. And all of a sudden now you're in the major, which is a half step below. And I don't know if this necessarily is a smooth way of doing it. But there's probably a way to make it, many ways to make it smoother. But can you call the E in Hey Joe a definite minor? So before getting to Hey Joe, which as a kind of precursor will mention this sort of subdominant to the tonic, minor subdominant into the tonic, will be important for Hey Joe. And really this minor subdominant to the tonic is again that kind of that plagal cadence. I think then, now this can then have some other uses. For example, in Embraceable You, so now having established that this plagal cadence can be used, and I'm thinking, okay, can that really be used? But in this book, which is like kind of classical, he uses it almost entirely in the initial pages for all of the modulations. So it seems like it's pretty, at least nothing terribly far-fetched. Like it's been a thing for many decades, because I think this was written in the 30s. 4-1 resolution, yes. Which is essentially subdominant to the tonic. So now here's something that's kind of useful. Actually, first we'll mention Embraceable You, the jazz standard. So, classic recording of Billie Holiday singing Embraceable You. The earlier version from the Commodore recordings. Embrace me. So it starts on the root, on the tonic. Embrace me. And then it goes to the diminished. My sweet and then to the Dorian. Grace of you. And to the dominant. But here you can do, anyways. So tonic. Embrace me, my sweet embraceable you. Now it lands into the Dorian. Embrace me. And then here's to the subdominant, which is the 4th. And it's got this sort of like, maybe like conventionally kind of like this backdoor turnaround from the 4 to the flat 7 to the root. So that would be subdominant to the subtonic. Back to the tonic. So tonic. My sweet embrace of you. Embrace me. And then here, back to the tonic. My sweet, my irreplaceable you. Now here's where it's going to be using the plagal cadence coming up in a certain way here. So, and then here, so now first it does a very sort of intuitive kind of move from the tonic into the submediant, which would be, in other words, from the root into the relative minor. Here's the relative minor. So here's the relative minor. So the minor 6th, Aeolian, submediant. Just one look at you. And then here, he actually, or Gershwin in the song, goes from the 6 minor and modulates to the mediant minor, so the 3 minor. So then to go from the relative minor, just one look at you, my heart grows tipsy in me, which is now in this new key. So he starts on the relative minor. And then, so it goes, now he treats this 3 as the sort of temporary kind of relative minor, and then goes into the 5, which is almost like the temporary relative major, 3 to 5. Gets back to the more umbrella tonic. So anyways, so from here, you and you alone bring out this is essentially the plagal cadence again, because you're treating this as the tonic, but the tonic in a minor chord quality, and then here's that 4-1 cadence. So it's the same sort of thing, except now using the tonic in a minor. But this kind of seemed nice because to use, and it leads up to Hey Joe, because it's a way of, it's almost like this sort of 4-to-1 resolution. Is almost like the chord kind of melts into the next one. The 4 melts into the 1, or the submedian melts into the tonic. This kind of resolution almost feels like it's kind of melting into it. It's got this sort of like mellow sort of, and it's also kind of easier if you were trying to like resolve into this chord by doing it from the 5-1, then that would be kind of tricky, because the 7, or this leading tone in their main tonality, would be like, you'd have to play it as this like wild altered chord, which is still doable, but like just doing a minor can be kind of easier when it comes to like sort of like improvising around, maybe. Now, okay, that makes sense actually. That actually helps to make it, because then it's almost like a mirror. You've got the median and then the submedian. So, much appreciated for that. So now here's Hey Joe. So this sort of type of resolution, the plagal cadence, I mean, personally, I find already it's got some useful application for Embraceable You, because it's like there are certain songs that resolve into that median minor as a sort of regional tonic, where, like, for example, in I'm Getting Sentimental Over You, it goes there. Polka Dots and Moonbeams, it moves into the, both of these songs move into the median as a sort of regional tonic in the bridge section. So this means in order to modulate there, you can just go into the relative minor and sort of do this sort of melting plagal cadence into the bridge, and it'll bring you kind of in there. Like, for example, never thought I'd fall, but now I hear love call. I'm getting sentimental over you. Things you say and do just throw me through and through. I'm getting sentimental over you. And then here, and so then here, you can just over you. I thought I was happy. So it's like, I'm getting sentimental over. Just resolve it straight into the relative minor, maybe. And then play equal cadence. I thought I was happy I could live without love. Anyway. Now I must admit, love is all I'm thinking It seems like this is how classical people do kind of think about things, like they use these terms rather than like, which kind of makes sense, because like the number system, the Nashville number system was more from popular music. And like it seems like so yeah. I guess so. Now here's the thing. So now there's already a bit of application. Now here with Hey Joe, let's say starting from here. Here we've got C to G to D to A to E. Now, some people will kind of find what follows here to be kind of odd, given, especially since Hey Joe is often played more in the context of like not really harmonic sort of in a sort of harmonically conscious way. Instead, they'll just sit on the C chord, like maybe the C or E chord, and just play the major or minor pentatonic or something like that without kind of thinking about the key. Which, if that works, that's totally fine. But if someone is trying to kind of actually play the chord changes in this, then this is actually kind of at first kind of difficult. And as a hint, the plagal cadence may make this a little easier, or a lot easier, but initially it might seem difficult because whereas going, like for example in the blues, in the first few bars of the blues, to go from the 1 chord to the 4 chord, or in other words, to go from the tonic to the subdominant, is like the ear can naturally go from like so that's going from 1 to the 4. But now to go from like, if you had to go from like 1 to the resolve into the 5, and then from the 5 resolve into its dominant, and from that dominant resolve into the next dominant, so like a cycle of dominance, that becomes a little bit more difficult. And to kind of feel how difficult it would be, it would just think about playing in C, then playing in a sort of smooth way into G, then from G playing in a smooth way into D, and from D playing in a smooth way into A, and then from A playing into a smooth way into E. It's actually kind of not so easy to do. Again, all of this can be considered moot if the plan is to just play like major pentatonic over the entire thing. But if that's not the goal, then it's difficult. Because it's like cycle of ascending fifths is actually kind of rare. And so first it goes melody, major third. Hey Joe. And then this now it's still on that note, so it's the major 6. And here it's on the root. Where are you going down? And then here on the A it's the major third. And where are you going down with that gun? Or the 9 in other words, it seems to kind of actually kind of navigate through that whole thing. And it would be probably, yeah. So, okay, so then now how to actually kind of navigate through that if not only relying on the melody? Well, going from, really what's happening is you're going, from one way of looking at it, you're always going into the next dominant. So from the C, the dominant is the G. Again, dominant in terms of just substituting this term for the fifth scale degree. So you're going from the C, from the 1 to its 5, using this as the 1 now, going to its 5, using this as the 1 going into its 5, and then using this as the 1 and going into its 5. So the bass line actually goes like this. Again, it's really high, really unusual, because usually in more popular, many more tunes, it'll go in the reverse direction. Like that's much more, but here it's going. So then, how do you go in that direction? So now here, again, one way of looking at it is you're always going up through the dominants. Not necessarily dominant, and again, not necessarily dominant in terms of the chord quality. These can just be simple major chords, but dominant, we're using that as a substitute for the fifth degree, as how the term dominant is used in like a book like this. And so actually another way, a different way of looking at it, is that really you're just going from subdominant to the tonic, then using this as the subdominant to its tonic, subdominant to the tonic, subdominant to the tonic, which means this is just a series of plagal cadences. So, and then you can, then from that perspective, at least in my mind, playing the plagal cadences is actually really is still retains some of that intuitive sort of way of getting around. So then actually you could even quickly treat it as major. And still have that kind of minor subdominant into the tonic. And now if you were to play it in terms of these plagal cadences, so like when I'm sort of going through it, I'm not saying this is a good way of doing it because it's sort of kind of has a dependency built into it, but sometimes I'm thinking of certain hook notes to get into the next chord. So for example, here on the starting chord, which is C, to get from the subdominant into the tonic, that minor third can be used, and then you know that's into the 5 of the tonic chord. So then here, anytime then that you're playing this C, into now you're in G. Sort of went through that a little quick, but like C, here's a major third. Now if again, minor subdominant into the tonic, that minor subdominant, when that minor note can be used as a hook note because it's what's resolving. So here now we've completed that plagal cadence. now on this, now we're on G. Now, if we make this into minor, this minor note then hooks into the next chord, which is D, 5 of the D chord. Now the major of this major D, switch it to minor. This minor note now hooks into the A major, make this minor. And now you're through the entire progression. So then, hopefully that kind of, I believe so, like maybe not so much, I think it is used, like the way I'm in reading some of this, which is not the most, it's hard to kind of like find tidbits in a book like this, like practical tidbits, but the way he talks about it in this book, he talks about it like in terms of like the median, subdominant, that kind of thing. Or at least here, like, I'll just read out. Tonic C major to the dominant, which is also the minor subdominant in B major. So it's kind of talking about it in that way. That's that exact B major modulation that started this. So then, now that was sort of kind of going through things a little bit. Now, in terms of like soloing through it, not saying that personally feel super comfortable, but at least this sort of plagal thing of starting everything in major, then at least just the transition to it, switch it to minor, use that minor third as a reference point to know where you are in the next chord. And then in the next chord, it'll be major. Just knowing the chord progression for Hey Joe, make that minor, switch it to minor when transitioning, use that next minor to hook into the next chord. So it's like, kind of like, the E kind of sticks there. For that one, now to reset, you kind of do, at least I kind of feel like I need to think about it and get back into C. And then here C. Oh God. Last one, maybe C to D, or just to G. And like, at least in my mind, it's similar to like Embraceable You, or was one like I'm getting sentimental over you. There's some practical application to this way of modulating. And now, as an addendum to this, this actually has some practical application, I think, to the blues progression. And actually, this is kind of one of those things where just by applying some sort of harmonic thoughts to it, since the blues so rarely is most often played in a kind of by ear, as they say, like in other words, without much kind of like harmony, like without much theory involved, which many people will then say that's a much preferred form of blues when the person doesn't know what is actually happening, because then it can result in more feeling or something like that. I think that can have some truth to it, though. And maybe the people who are interested in those sorts of harmonic things are also less likely to just play blues, because it's kind of then, to somebody who likes playing in different progressions, playing a whole set of blues songs is like playing, almost like playing the same song over and over again, maybe in different slightly different keys and tempos. So it sort of may have certain things where it sort of pushes people away who are interested in the harmonics side of things, although not necessarily, and maybe not at all actually, if you were to look at all the ways that the blues progression has been varied, even going back to like the New Orleans turn of the century, where even by that point in like the 1890s it had already been reharmonized so many times. So maybe not, but anyways. Here's one thought where, okay, let's say you were to use this plagal cadence to get into the 4-chord. What would it really then do? Again, all this theory stuff is in fact kind of pointless and nothing but talking and that kind of thing. If it's not actually applied and shown to actually maybe show the possibility to actually create or make it easier to make different sort of like sounds. So I think personally it's important, it can be important to try and actually push through to find like some practical applications to some of these things. So let's say in the blues progression from the 1 to the 4 chord. So then here's the from the 1. So now, oftentimes, okay, so that's kind of the bare bones. But now, let's say you're trying to get into the 4 chord by using this sort of like plagal cadence subdominant, minor subdominant, into the treating the 4 as the tonic. That would mean you'd go down to the flat 7. So then it means you can just play it. It kind kind of gets you to then play the kind of subtonic minor, and then that'll get you into the median major, which is the 4. So flat 7 to 4. Which is this kind of like Hey Joe progression. So it's kind of like here, but here's the overarching tonic of the blues progression in this case. Now trying to get it, rather than getting into the 4 chord from here, like that, maybe like, you first drop down into set up this sort of subdominant into the tonic thing. And now you try and get some of that. And actually, this is one of those cases where just by using this sort of harmonic change, it's kind of getting the player to play these sounds that may otherwise not come about so commonly. For example, it's getting the player to play this flat 9 note. So it's getting the which, if you were just to say, okay, just throw the flat 9 into the blues progression, it could sound kind of weird. But when you do it in the context of like some of this like functional, it can actually, here's this. Yeah. And here's that subdominant. So just kind of like can maybe make for some other options. Pre-Hendrix versions for listening of Hey Joe. I don't really know any other versions of Hey Joe. But yeah, that kind of concludes topic number 2. Don't really have much else to add. But then I think this then comes back to what George Benson was saying, is like, it's not really about chords, it's about the harmony. Because what is actually happening with something like thinking about things from this sort of plagal cadence thing and applying it to different things, is like, these are simple 1 minor 3 5 minor triads. These aren't very fancy chords, but when kind of applied in the context of like the harmony, or which to me is sort of synonymous with the chord progression, or what's kind of framed as the chord progression, can kind of lead to really different sort of like different ideas, even though these are nothing but minor triads and major triads. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh. Actually, maybe we'll close this out soon just so that it's compact. But this actually, Schoenberg brings up some really, he just has a bunch of different thoughts that he writes down. And sometimes when I'm sort of skimming through this, I try not to take every word as like the gospel, but more just kind of try and let it sort of open up the kind of some new thoughts and ideas, kind of to help keep an open mind. He mentioned some really, I wish I had sort of dog-eared some of these pages, but maybe can consider this stream over, but we'll just try and throw in some things here. So the next part may just involve just trying to find things in here. Oh, there's some good stuff. Oh, yes, yes. A tonality, here's one. This is kind of seems typical of this book. It kind of has these sort of like, a tonality is expressed by the exclusive use of all its tones. Which to me is kind of means like by kind of constraining things, you can kind of have things. But okay, we'll kind of give this up in a second. Okay, here's for example one. According to the previously given definition of modulation, only a definite departure from a region, and he calls a region, it seems like he calls a region like a certain kind of like familiar area of kind of related notes. Only a definite departure from a region, together with the appearance of the cadential elements of a new region, constitute a modulation. Substitute tones producing substitute harmonies are to be found in great numbers. Real modulations are few. If every tone foreign to the scale were to mean a modulation, how many modulations would there be in the 24th fugue in the first volume. He seems to be talking about a certain. Visual. They were very good with that. Those math classes. This is Schoenberg, Arnold Schoenberg, Structural Functions of Harmony. Apparently he's actually got a bunch of different books. Anyways. actually I kind of forget some of the railroad bill was up on the hill. Railroad bill was up on the hill. Roll a thick cigar out with a $5 bill. Oh man, might have to try that again at some other point. Oh. Oh, it's been too long. Maybe we'll try this. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Oh God, I once was lost, but now I'm found. I was blind, but now I see. It was grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. And when we've been here 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, then we've no last days to sing His praise. Then when we first begun, and if the earth should dissolve like snow, and the sun refuses to shine, then He who brought me here below will be forever mine. The Lord has promised such good to me. For Him my hope secures. He will my shield and portion be, as long as life endures. And if this flesh and heart shall fail, and earthly life does cease, then I will possess within the veil a life of joy and peace. Through many dangers and toils and fears, I have already come. It was grace that brought me here thus far, and grace will lead me home. Much appreciated, yo. Been doing these spiritual songs. Though I don't mean to come off as overly zealous. Father, Father, hear me pray. Hear these words I keep singing. Mark my soul with water from on high. In a world of sin around me, no evil can bind me. But Savior, if you'll ever leave me, I will die. Hide me in the bosom until the storm of life is over. Rock me in the cradle of thy love. Just feed me until I want no more. Just take me to the blessed home above. Make my journey brighter and make my burden longer. Help me to do good wherever I can. Let thy Holy Spirit fill me and let thy holy presence fill me. Hold me in the hollow of thy hand. Hide me in the bosom until the storm of life is over. Rock me in the cradle of thy love. Just feed me until I want no more. Just take me to the blessed home above. Faith I maintain, yet I still go on complaining. But before this time another year, my life may forsake me, and death may overtake me. But with you on high, I needn't fear. Hide me in thy bosom until the storm. Rock me in the cradle of thy love. Just feed me till I want no more. Just take me to the blessed home above. Just take me to the blessed home above. Swing, swing low, sweet chariot. Might switch the guitar. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming home, carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming home, carry me home. Well, I looked over Jordan, and what did I see? To carry me home. Well, a band of angels coming to me, coming for to carry me home. Well, if you get there before I do, coming for to carry me home. Well, tell my friends I'm coming there too, coming for to carry me home. I'm sometimes down, coming for to carry me home. Well, I'm sometimes almost level with the ground, coming for to carry me home. Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on. Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on to that land. Precious Lord, take my hand. Oh my gosh. Precious. When the darkness, when the darkness appears, precious Lord, linger near. When the day is past and gone, hear me cry, hear me call, hold my hand lest I fall. Take my hand, precious Lord, and lead me home. When my way grows drear, precious Lord, linger near. When this life feels past and gone, hear me cry, and there I stand. Guide my feet, hold my hand, take my hand, precious Lord, and lead me home. Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me through the storm and through the rain. Lead me on to the light. Take my hand, precious Lord, and lead me home. Swing low, swing low, sweet chariot, come forth to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming forth to carry me home. Well, I'm sometimes up and sometimes down, coming forward to carry me home. Well, I'm sometimes almost low off the ground, coming forward to carry me home. Well, if you get there before I do, coming forward to carry me home. Well, tell my friends that I'm coming there too, coming forward to carry me home. I hate to see, I hate to see that evening sun go down. I hate to see that evening sun go down. It makes me feel like I'm on my last go round. Feeling tomorrow like I'm feeling today. Feeling tomorrow like I'm feeling today. I'm gonna pack my trunk and make my getaway. Oh, St. Louis woman with her diamond rings, she pulls that man around by her apron strings. If it were not for that powder and that store-bought hair, that man I love it would not have gone nowhere, nowhere. I got blue suns, just as blue as I could be. That man's got a heart like a rock in the deep blue sea, or else he would not think so low of me. 'Cause I'm mean old fireman, took my baby on so far from here. Mr. Engineer, turn their engine around. Mr. Engineer, turn your engine around. 'Cause my loving sweetheart has left this town. Josh fit the Battle of Jericho, Jericho, Jericho. Josh fit the Battle of Jericho, Jericho, and the wall came tumbling down. Hallelujah, child. Joshua fit the Battle of Jericho, Jericho, Jericho. Joshua fit the Battle of Jericho, and the walls came tumbling down. Up to the walls of Gibeon, he marched with a spear in his hand. He told the children to blow their horns, 'cause the battle is in my hand. Bold and brave he stood, with a double-edged sword on his arm. Blared those trumpets, Joshua cried, 'cause the devil can't do you no harm. Joshua fit the Battle of Jericho, Jericho. Joshua fit the Battle of Jericho, and the walls came tumbling down. The trumpets began to blow, and the horns began to sound. Joshua told the children to jump and shout, and the walls came tumbling down. Hallelujah, child. Joshua. You might have heard about the man at Gideon. Might have heard about the man of Saul. But there ain't no one like that girl, Joshua, at the Battle of Jericho. If and try. John Henry was a little dirty boy, and he sat on his grandma's knee, and he picked up the hammer and a little piece of steel and said, "This hammer's gonna be the death of me." watched his captain and said, a man is only a man. But before that angel ever overtakes me, I will die with the hammer in my hand. I will die with the hammer in my hand. The man who invented that shiny steam drill, he thought it was mighty fine. But when John Henry laid down 15 feet of track, that steam drill laid down 9. That steam drill only laid down 9. John Henry had a woman, and her name was Pollyanna. When John Henry II laid up in bed, Pollyanna Josie like a man. Pollyanna Josie like a man. Henry hammered at the mountain, and his hammer it glowed like fire. With some last heaves and shouts, his poor heart it went out, and he died with the hammer in his hands. He died. Sometimes on early Monday mornings, just before the bluebirds sing, people swear they can hear John Henry just making the hammer ring, just making the hammer ring, just making the hammer ring, just making the hammer ring. Da, 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 there ain't nothing I can do, and nothing I can say that folks don't criticize me. So I'm going to do just as I want to anyway. And don't care if they all despise. If I should take a notion to jump into the ocean, it ain't nobody's business if I do. If my man ain't got no money, and I'd say take all of my money, it ain't nobody's business if ocean, catch up into the ocean. It ain't nobody's business if I do. And if I I swear I won't come if I'm beat up by my papa. It ain't nobody's business if I do. Oh, yeah, that was amazing. That was like I remember that, and I think I remember you were asking about like the bass line treble note thing. Now listen, honey, while I say, how can you tell me that you're going away? Don't say that we must part. Don't break my aching heart. You know I love you for many years. Love you night and day. How can you tell me that you're now listen to what I say. After you've gone, left me crying. After you've gone, there's no denying. You feel sad. You miss the dearest spell that you've ever had. There'll come a time, now don't forget it. There'll come a time and you'll regret it someday when you grow lonesome. You'll miss them after you've gone, after you've gone away. It was early one morning, just before the break of day. It was early. I'm thinking today. I am thinking today of a loved one far away, one that we used to know. One so kind and lover, I'm always thinking of you. Even though it wasn't those days that have gone by. Call me back, pal of mine. Let me live there once again. Call me back to your heart, pal of mine. Let me thrill with a charm whilst I lay there in your arms, like I did in those days that have gone by. Let me run once again down in old Lover's Lane, like I did in those days of long ago. Let me gaze in your eyes while I find paradise. Call me back to your heart, pal of mine. maybe one more here. You ain't been blue. You ain't been blue. No, no, no. You ain't been blue. Till you've had the that feeling go stealing right in my shoes while I sit and cry. Go always get that mood in the mood. Since my baby said goodbye, when I get that mood in the mood, I'm so lonely I could die. 'Cause there's nobody who cares about me. I'm just a soul that's bluer than blue could be. When I get that mood indigo, I could lay me down and die. You ain't been blue. No, no, no. You ain't been blue. Till you had that mood indigo, I'm feeling go stealing right to my shoes while I sit and cry. Go on, always gets that mood indigo. Since my baby said goodbye, when I get that mood indigo, I'm so lonely I could die. 'Cause there's nobody who cares about me. I'm bluer than blue could be. When I get that mood indigo, I could lay me down and die. That old that old that old rockin' ship, that old rockin' ship, that old rock.
by my side. Fetch me that gin, boy, before I tan your hide. I can't get from this cabin, I can't go nowhere. I'm just sitting here grabbing the flies around my rocking chair. What about old Aunt Harriet? Way up in heaven she be. Send those old chariots for an end of the trouble I've seen. That old rocking chair gets it. It ain't going nowhere. I'm just sitting here in this old rocking chair. That old rocking chair's got me. A cane's by my side. Fetch me that old gin before I tell your eye. I can't get from this cabin, I can't go there. I'm just sitting here grabbing the flat rocking chair. What about dear Aunt Harriet? Way up in heaven she be. Send those old chariots for an end of the trouble I see. That old rocking chair gets it. It ain't going nowhere. I'm just sitting here in this old rocking chair.
Mm. Speed and jazz. Yeah, I think. Yeah, actually, I don't know. The speed thing is probably good to do. Yeah, that was probably about a year and a half ago now. But though it maybe I feel like for anything sometimes going back to that thing that Edgar Meyer was saying where to play fast, play slow kind of thing. And maybe for these and yeah, maybe you can try playing fast in like 5 years or something. But then there are always like lots of things to work on, and sometimes things can fall by the wayside. No, actually, it was kind of like my kind of like left buttocks was needing a break. So, but yeah, there are always like other things to transcribe, like for example, some of those there's that album of lute suite pieces played by John Williams, which seem like they could be helpful to kind of like, or nice to listen to more, and maybe, yeah. Try to transcribe or something like that. Why did Benson play Take Fives? I don't know. But he sure plays it pretty briskly. And that's some ferocious guitar playing. When listening to like Benson play an archtop, I actually haven't heard anybody like play an archtop guitar more like an archtop than George Benson. Like when listening to some of his recordings, like you can hear how he just like gets that guitar to like ring. You can hear that it's a little bit electric, and also you can hear the acoustic side of it too, and it has this like beautiful sound to it. Whereas listening to like Joe Pass, it's so electric that like you don't really hear the archtop part of it. But with like Benson, he seems to like have the volume only as much as he needs, and then play like in such a way with such a technique that he really gets the guitar to like resonate, and you get that full archtop sound. And he's got that way of picking that lots of people seem to use these. I don't know, and I don't know if he started that. Yeah. Actually, yeah. Yeah. I haven't really listened to a lot of Elmore James actually. But yeah, trying to think. Yeah, I think Derek Trex said that he feels like he's like 60% Dwayne and 40% Elmore or something like that, or maybe vice versa. It's kind of interesting that after Derek Trucks, like everybody who plays slide now, like emulates that sound. It seems. And there was that time when like he was the only one who had that sound. It seems like, yeah, I think that may be actually fair to say. Because the things that he does on the slide couldn't really do on an acoustic guitar. Sometimes, like maybe with the sustain that's needed. And there was really never anyone before Derek Trucks on electric slide that actually kind of like fully developed it. And he really makes the guitar like sound like a voice. And he's pretty into those genres. Though in my opinion, I would say still the best slide player ever was Blind Willie Johnson. There's the session where Blind Willie Johnson recorded "Dark Was the Night" and "Jesus Make Up My Dying Bed." That's some of the sharpest guitar playing I think that's up there with anything. Like, and the speed and precision that he plays "Jesus Make Up My Dying Bed" is like really that's like a model recording for like the best possibly like getting close to about as good as you could play an instrument, I think. I don't mean to exaggerate too much, so maybe I shouldn't throw that around, but it's just, so I'll take that back, but like it's just super precise. It's just, and it's almost like it kind of, in my mind, like the way he's like hitting these notes and having it this such precision is like, and speed is like at that point I think that's a way of like playing where you have to be improvising, otherwise there's no way you could really play like that, like, or like in that, or only by improvising can you really reach that sort of thing. I don't know. Maybe that's also kind of too definitive, but yeah, definitely probably different styles between Blind Willie Johnson and Derek Trucks. Yeah, I think all the good blues players actually were just improvising. Yeah, maybe we'll pack it in. Actually, tomorrow maybe we'll tune back in because might do a little bit of playing again tomorrow in advance of the weekend. So it's fun, and I think for other listeners, for any listeners, the first section of the video, this stream goes over a couple topics that I think are actually could be kind of useful. So yeah, thanks for hanging out, Really appreciate it. And then, yeah, we'll pick it up again. So, yeah, have a good day, have a good night, and a good pre-weekend few hours here. So, thanks for the hangs very much. Really, really appreciate it. So, take care. Peace.